Hey everyone! Welcome to another Stonehearth Desktop Tuesday. For the last couple weeks, we've talked about building prototypes and how sometimes there are so many possible answers to a design question that it's more efficient to find the answer by writing multiple janky prototypes to test out possible solutions than it is to write one beautiful final version that you'll know you'll have to fix later. This week, I'd like to show you a similar kind of prototype, but one that was built to address an even larger question than building. As you may remember from previous weeks, I've mentioned that designer Richard is on a long quest to address high-level game design questions that are so fundamental to gameplay that their solutions may have the power to dramatically change Stonehearth's core interaction model. Since it would be irresponsible to radically alter Stonehearth without first checking if the alteration is any good, Richard is working through these questions via fast developer prototypes. The first of these prototypes, which I'm super excited to share with you today, is about exploration. Stonehearth is a community builder, a game about a small group of people who must optimize their environment to thrive, and community builders tend to be set in one place, around the town that your Hearthlings are building together. However, you all keep asking us questions like, will we ever see other biomes on the same map, or where do I go once my whole map is explored? We thought these questions were worth exploring, so Richard, Engineer Max, and Engineer Angelo built a prototype to answer the following two questions. Question number 1. What would a community building game be like if exploration were part of its core loop? And question number 2. If exploration is part of the game's core loop, and since cities don't move around in space the way protagonists in exploration-based RPGs like Skyrim do, how can we make sure that there's always something new to explore? To answer the first question, Richard reasoned that exploration would only be a core part of a community builder if it is an integral part of gaining items that unlock town progression. Since there aren't very many things like that currently in the game, something Richard and Luke will be fixing as they revisit existing systems, he decided to create a prototype in which the job hierarchy is flattened, and job talismans are no longer craftable, but instead distributed throughout the world in chests that were protected by monsters. In order to find them, you'd have to send someone, in this case our only directable unit is a combat class, to do battle with the monsters to win them for the town. If this worked, Richard reasoned, then in a final version of the system there would be lots of items, not just talismans, that would require exploration to discover, and lots of kinds of challenges, not just combat, that would challenge you as you tried to collect them. To begin to answer question number 2, how to keep your environment constantly interesting, in tandem with question number 1, Richard stipulated that in this prototype the world around your town would be dramatically altered after 6 in-game days, with new content and terrain, simulating a major environmental change like a buffalo migration, seasonal patterns, or some sort of magical terraforming or calamity. He also requested that Max and Angelo implements a very hacky, developer art version of true Fog of War, so that as a player we'd only have clear vision around the sight radius of our Hearthlings. Spaces we hadn't been to would be black, spaces near our Hearthlings would be fully colored, and spaces that Hearthlings had been to but were not in currently would be dark gray. If monsters moved into the gray area while the world was changing, players would not see them till the Hearthlings were nearby, adding renewed suspense to even explored areas. The whole team then played the playtest. The first thing we noticed was that exploration lent clear excitement to the game. It's naturally suspenseful to clear Fog of War from terrain, and everyone attached deeply to their footmen because they were spending a lot of time carefully shepherding them around the map so that they could react immediately if there was danger. The danger, however, made the game about 10 times more stressful than it had been before, because you can't get another sword until you find another sword, so there was no way to build up an army before engaging the enemy. Every combat was nail-bitingly close. Furthermore, the stakes were really high. Losing the footman meant you would have to restart the game. On the flip side, tension meant that each talisman and armor upgrade was imbued with meaning. One problem Stonehearth has right now is that once you unlock a recipe, there's no sense of scarcity. Each hoe or shield is much like each other hoe. In this prototype, people were thrilled every time they unlocked a new class, and were even thrilled each time they found a duplicate talisman so that they could have a second farmer or fighter. Another thing we noticed was that exploration correlated with a trivializing of the time spent on our towns. The new goal instinctively became to get as many of the items as we could before they disappeared. Creating templated dining halls and sleeping quarters became a bother as people began to attach far more to their footmen than to all the rest of their townsfolk put together. As Tom said, usually I feel like the hero of my game is my carpenter. This time the hero was definitely the footman, and everyone else was just there to support them. Finally, we noticed that true Fog of War successfully lent mystery to the surroundings, though we wanted it to be prettier, something more like Ali's drawings from her Edge of the World studies. We also wanted a way for it to be permanently cleared so that we could feel like our safe zones had expanded. So clearly, we learned a ton from this prototype, like the fact that exploration is undeniably exciting, and that moments of suspense with the footmen increase our attachment to them in a way that is mostly missing from current playthroughs of Stonehearth, and that scarcity gave items narrative weight. At the same time, we saw that exploration can create early game stress and distracts players away from their towns. How can we retain some of the best parts of exploration and still make a community-focused building simulation? Next week, we'll take a look at what Richard, Angelo, and Max did to continue to explore these questions. In the meantime, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this prototype and on exploration in general here in the comments or on our forum at discourse.stonehearth.net. As you do, please remember that everything in these prototypes was written to address 2 specific questions and was thrown away thereafter. That even gameplay things like the talismans and the changing loot are placeholders for more complex concepts, and that sometimes prototypes are more useful when they show you what not to do, and that finally, only our learnings will be taken back into the main game. With that, you can also find us on Twitch. A different member of our dev team streams every Thursday at 6 p.m. PST. See you there, or see you next week.